Hey gang, Fraser here with something a little different from my ordinary reviews. Yes, it's that time of year. Essen Spiel, the largest board game convention in the world, is just around the corner. Last year, there were over 700 games released, and this year they look set to break all records in terms of number of attendees, publishers, and new releases. And with so many games available, it's just impossible to see everything. And so I always do a lot of research before I go about what's available. Now, I've reviewed the 600 games or so that have been so far announced. I've read their descriptions, rules, reviews, and videos where available. I've contacted publishers via email, and that's helped me narrow it down to about 100 or 30 or so. Now, some of these I'm excited for just because of who's designing them. Some, all I know about them is the title or theme, and that's enough to pique my interest. And this year, I'm sharing my list with you in these videos. So, you know, I'd like you to tell me if you think it's worthwhile or not. And just quickly, I wanted to let you know how I've made this list. Firstly, the majority of this information comes from Eric Martin's incredible Essen Preview Geek list on Board Game Geek, as well as the Essen list of lists that's also on that website. I also used the brand new Spiel Together tool developed by Peter Moeller. Thanks a lot, Peter. I'll put links to all of these in the video description if you want to go ahead and put together something like this for yourself. Now, I am going to fire through these as fast as possible, hopefully piquing your interest with a few games that you might otherwise have been unaware of or passed over. But please note that in making this list, I've restricted myself only to games which are available to buy at Essen, not just preview. So games like Sword and Sorcery and First Martians don't count. Similarly, games which have previously been released somewhere like Guilds of London at UKGE aren't on here either. All right, enough rambling and babbling. Let's get on to the first game. Okay, we're going to try and do this in alphabetical order, although obviously there are things that are being added all the time, so at the end I'm probably going to have to throw a video with miscellaneous games in. But we're going to start with the numbers, and there's only one of them, but it's a big one. It's Seven Wonders Duel Pantheon. Wow, last year I picked up Seven Wonders Duel, expecting it to be really, really good at Essen, and it blew me away. It's become one of my favorite two-player games. I love it so much. You're just constantly thinking. For me, there's no real downtime in the game because I'm just constantly thinking about what I'm going to do. I feel the tension in every turn of when I flip this card. If I take this card, it's going to flip it for my opponent. Could that be good? Could it be bad? If it's that military card, it's going to push them on the military card track. So much game in such a small space. I love it. I absolutely love it. There's an expansion coming out for it. So obviously I'm really, really excited, right? Yes, I am, but I'm also a little bit hesitant. That's Duel. One of the reasons I like it is it's such a tight game. It's like a beautiful machine. All the cogs are just lined up so perfectly, and everything fits together so well. I'm a little bit worried that an expansion might mess with that beautiful machinery a little bit, but I'm hoping that it won't. It looks really interesting. So they're introducing these gods effectively that you can kind of draft in the same way that you draft the cards, that affect the game in quite significant ways. They do away with the guilds in the final era and put it in a different mechanism. Looks interesting. I'm going to pick it up. I'm probably just going to buy it sight unseen because even if it's the kind of expansion that I don't play with every single time, which is what I suspect, it looks like one that I will play with every now and then. I've played Seven Wonders Duel many times now, and I'm not tired of it yet, but an expansion's welcome, and I will be giving it a go. Okay, next up, Four Gods. Now, this really is fascinating, okay? So this is a real-time tile placement game. So you start with 2 tiles in your hands, and you have to start placing tiles together to create this world with some tile placement rules. What makes it interesting is the scoring. So at some point you're going to see that perhaps, for instance, there's lots of mountainous regions, or perhaps that there's a particularly large mountainous region being built, in which case you're probably going to say, right now I'm going to be the Earth God, the one that scores points for Earth, and grab that before anybody else does. And that means then that you're continually building the world, but now you've got a real objective. You want to get the mountainous regions to be larger or most multitudinous. But as soon as you grab a god, as soon as you become an actual god of the world, you also get little followers which you can start putting out on the map and getting area majorities, whether or not you're of that element. So you can put your earth guys down on the plains and in the water and things like that as well. This has some real potential. I think it sounds fascinating to me. Obviously, the real-time element's going to turn a lot of people off. I do think that there's a turn-based version of it. I'm probably only interested in the real-time version of it, to be honest. This really sounds interesting. If it sounds interesting to you, check out more information about this, because this really, honestly, has really piqued my interest. I really want to give this a go this year. Okay, we've come to it. This is probably one of the games that's near the top of most people's lists. It's apparently it's being touted as Uwe Rosenberg's grand opus, his masterpiece. It's a feast for Odin. This is basically the culmination, or supposedly the culmination, of a lot of different Uwe Rosenberg designs into one great big heavy Euro. I got a chance to play this last year for an hour or two, and the hour or two that I spent playing it was, I mean, it was fascinating. I mean, it was really good. There's so much you can do. It's actually, I hope I don't get, attacked for this, but it's a little bit Feld-like in just how much you can do to score points. It's very Rosenberg, but so many different avenues to build up your clan, to go hunt, to become good at hunting, to become good at jewelry making, to do so much. A fascinating series of mechanisms, a world of mechanisms that you can just dive into and swim in for hundreds of plays, I would imagine. It's an expensive one. Will I be picking it up immediately? I definitely want to play it. So if I don't know anyone else that's going to be buying it very quickly, I'll probably have to buy it, even though it's really expensive. Yeah, this is the one of the ones that honestly I really am looking forward to the most this year is Essen. So sorry I can't be more unpredictable, but I do think this is just going to be a fantastic game, and I'm really looking forward to it. Adrenaline is coming from CGE Games. This looks really interesting. It seems to be trying to emulate first-person shooters, video games in a board game format. Now, when I first heard about this, I wasn't that interested because first-person shooters aren't really my cup of tea anyway. But when I heard about the mechanisms that were being used, and I think it was Paul Grogan discussing how he felt they actually had quite Euro sensibilities, I thought, well, that's piqued my interest. So you're running around picking up different kinds of weapons that have different kinds of effects, and when you do damage to your friends, you're putting down your damage counters onto their boards so that you know how much damage you've done to everyone. You've got this kind of like area majority on each other based on how much damage you've done to people. It looks actually like it might be quite interesting. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Definitely one I'm going to be checking out. I'm a really big fan of asymmetry in games. Anytime I hear about a game that's got a lot of asymmetry in it, I'm going to be interested. Aether Captains from Mage Company really seems to have that. It seems to be like a steampunk style game where one player is playing as the authority, essentially, the police, with a really giant steampunk airship that's much more powerful than all the rest of the players, while the rest of the players play pirates who all have their own objectives that are trying to, get those done while the authority's trying to stop them, essentially. It sounds really interesting. I like the theme. I like the idea of one person having so much more power than the rest, but probably being stretched thin by everyone moving much more quickly around the board. Seems interesting. Definitely looking to give this one a shot. Age of Thieves from Galactic. This one's interested me based entirely on the premise where all of the players are thieves in this kind of fantasy universe, all trying to break into the Emperor's palace and steal his jewels or whatever he's got in there that's really interesting to thieves, and then escape the city. So there's kind of two elements to this game. One is actually finding a way into the Emperor's palace using all sorts of different equipment that seems to be based on like Renaissance artists' inventions. It looks really interesting. And then escaping. There's guards patrolling the city, so actually having to get out of the city as well. Not a lot of information that I've seen on terms of the actual gameplay yet. So I'm interested. I'm definitely interested based on the theme. I like that idea of being thieves, breaking in and escaping. So we'll check it out. Alchemists, I don't know exactly how they're pronouncing it. This is a Japanese game. There's a very loose theme there. Essentially, you have a lot of cards on the table that cost different values that allow you to manipulate dice. The idea is that you're going to have to, this is so Japanese. So you've got some dice that I think are rolled at the start, and they have particular values, and you have to turn them into another set of dice. So one of the cards might, for instance, add 1 to all of the dice. And so you've got 2 5s. You use the add 1 card, then you'll have 2 6s. Then you'd be able to maybe use a card that halves the value of the dice, and so on and so forth until you get to the value that you need. This is obviously, I'm sure you've already guessed this, what you're doing is turning ore into gold. Okay, obviously, right? So the theme's pretty thin, but it actually seems quite interesting to me. The idea is that it's a race game, so everyone sees all of the cards. If you're the first person to see a valid way of doing it, you'll call out the value of all of the cards that it's going to cost. And if you're the first person to do that and you can do it correctly, you get a point. If you're the second person that gets it correct, but under the value, so you can find a cheaper, more efficient way to do it, then you get a point as well. Quite an unusual game, the kind of thing that I expect to come out of Japan, to be honest. I don't know how much fun it would be after 1 or 2 plays. I'm definitely interested in trying it out, though. It looks different, it looks unique, and yeah, I'm interested in checking it out. A few years ago, CGE Games brought us Alchemists, which was a game that I really enjoyed. It was one of the first games that had app integration, and while I really enjoyed it and I think it met moderate success, I don't think it quite reached the success that I expected it to, based really on the fact that it's actually quite a heavy game. It's really quite a heavy deduction game. So I'm excited to see this new expansion come out for it, because I'm hoping that it'll breathe some new life into the game. But from what I've seen, it doesn't seem to actually add a lot to the game. It seems to give you asymmetric starts, and it messes things up a bit by having all the order spaces have new rewards and costs, which is fine, but it's nothing monumental. The main thing that it adds, I think, is this. You can now take part in giving life to a golem, which sounds interesting. I don't think I've done that in a game before. I'm interested to have a look. I'm hoping that I'll enjoy it, but I'm expecting that if I do enjoy it, it'll be that golem part of the game, because the rest seems like really small additions, but here's hoping. All right, next up is Barcelona, the Rose of Fire, which seems to be some sort of economic game where you're, I don't know what the name's about really. I'm sure it has some historical significance, but it sounds really interesting. It's from the team that brought us The War of the Ring, which is one of my favorite games of all time. This is quite a different beast though. So you're building buildings, all right? You're choosing to build incredible skyscrapers for huge prestige, or you can build, kind of low-class housing for workers. You've got to strike a balance here, because although the prestigious buildings are probably your point scorers, there's social unrest in the city of Barcelona. So if you are building all of these beautiful skyscrapers and you aren't providing for the workers, then they can turn on you. That seems to be resolved by drawing workers out of a bag, and there's soldiers in there. I'm not actually entirely sure of the mechanisms, but I love this idea. I like building cities. I like building things in the first place. But then this idea of having to strike a balance between building beautiful, prestigious buildings for points, and then actually the low-class buildings for the people that are actually building the buildings. Striking that balance sounds really interesting to me. I'm actually really looking forward to trying this out. The designers are definitely people that I trust. So yeah, I'm really actually looking forward to this one quite a bit. Beer Empire from Boards and Dice. This is one that I'm interested in mainly because of the theme. I'm a fan of beer brewing. Personally, it's one of my hobbies, and I've tried quite a few games that have tried to use that theme, and I've yet to find one that I've really enjoyed. So I'm hoping this is it. It seems to be a game where you're collecting all sorts of different ingredients, your resources, and using them in conjunction with your knowledge of the trends in the market and what's expected by the public, and things like what the experts are requesting during festivals and things like that, to kind of make the best beers to score the most points. I guess that's not a particularly novel idea for a game, but as long as it's competent and it works and the theme comes through a little bit, I think I'll probably enjoy it. So it's definitely one I'm going to be looking out for. BIOS Genesis. I don't know why this isn't getting more buzz. This is from Sierra Madre Games, and it's from Phil Eklund, who's given us some really fantastic games in the past. This game, according to him, is his most ambitious project he's ever undertaken, and it's taken him years to get it right. So get this, okay? You start the game as an inorganic compound shortly after the formation of the Earth. I mean, if you're not already interested, I don't know what to tell you. You have to somehow, there's 2 stages of the game that you have to get to. You have to get to kickstart autocatalytic life is your first main goal, and then from that go to Darwinian life. I mean, That's just fascinating. I love board games. You know, I just love that we get this kind of bizarre and yet fascinating, interesting stuff. You know, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is implemented and to seeing if it works. I'm hoping that it's good, because I don't think that you've got anything like that on your shelves. And I know I don't, so I'm really looking forward to trying it out, and I really hope it's great. I really hope it's good. WizKids has done some really interesting stuff with dice in the past, and this time I think they might have dropped the ball. They're giving us blank white dice. So they've not bothered filling in all the faces on these dice. So the basic premise of the game is quite simple, right? You roll and you score some points if your symbol comes up. If you roll any of these blank faces, well, you can draw onto these dice. They're like a white clean surface, I think. So you can draw a symbol on there that if you roll it in future will activate for you. And the symbols do different things, like make you score more points or your opponent lose more points. It does sound like it's more of a gimmick than a game, but well, the gimmicks can be fun. So I'm interested in trying it out. I mean, I suspect that it's the kind of thing that I'm going to try at Essen, have fun with it, and probably never play again. But honestly, I do really want to try it. I think it sounds interesting. I think it sounds fun. So yeah, here's hoping I enjoy it. Bohnanza by Uwe Rosenberg is still a great game no matter what anyone says. It's amazing that years later we're about to see a new Bohnanza game. This time it's Das Duel, and it's just for 2 players. I think that this is perhaps Rosenberg's attempt to replicate Seven Wonders Duel for Bohnanza. I hope so, because Seven Wonders Duel was incredible, and Bohnanza is a good game, so if this is able to achieve that, I'd be really, really excited. It'll be a fantastic game. It seems to have the same flavour of Bohnanza, but it's relaxed some of the rules. For instance, you don't have to have that, you know, bean cards staying the same order in your hand anymore. It seems to have this strange thing where you're top decking, you're pulling 2 cards and deciding what to do with them. It's got this interesting mechanism where you can offer gifts to your opponent, and if they accept it, they can give you something back, but it could be something really terrible for you. Interesting stuff. I don't really know what to expect. I'm hoping that it's going to be good, obviously, like everything else on this list. So yeah, this is not the only Rosenberg design this year. All of the Rosenberg designs this year, I think I'm excited for one reason or another, which is in stark contrast to last year, because the Rosenberg designs that were available at Essen last year were terrible. This year looks like they're going to be much better, and this Das Duel version of Bohnanza looks like it could be one of them, so I'm looking forward to it. Burke's Gambit. Okay, I know almost nothing about this except that it's a social deduction game, and we are being overwhelmed by these at the moment. So these games really need to stand out, do something special to make them worthy of playing. I don't know if Burke's Gambit has got that. The only thing that I've seen about it that's piqued my interest is the fact that it uses this dice mechanism whereby you roll a die and the result of the die does something like damage another player or let you see their affiliation card or speeds up the ship's imminent return to Earth. That's about all I know. I do love social deduction. Good social deduction games are some of my favorite games. There's just so many mediocre ones out there. Is Burke's Gambit one of those, or is it one of the good ones? I don't know. I'm going to look at it and find out at Essen. Okay, Capital Lux. This is a sort of micro game, I think. Looks pretty interesting. So you have a hand of cards, and each of those cards belongs to one of, I think, 5 professions. And when you play it, you have a choice of either playing it into your home territory, where it might score you points at the end of the game, or playing it into the middle of the table, the capital, where you get the benefit of that character or that profession's ability, but also try and get majority in the middle of the table. So I think how it works is that the 1 or 2 professions that are most populous in the middle of the table at the end of the game are the ones that score points at the end. So if you put loads and loads of farmers down in your home territory, but you don't get a majority in the middle of the table, then you've not scored any points for those. So it sounds like an interesting game where you're balancing getting abilities and making sure you get the area majority that you want in the middle of the table while not wasting all of your cards to do that because you need them to score points in your home territory. Sounds interesting. I think it could go either way. I'm looking forward to trying it out. Caravan by Emerson Matsuichi. Oh, now this is interesting. Everyone that I know that's been able to play prototypes and early versions of Caravan has said it's an amazing game, a really, really excellent Euro-style game. But at Essen and in general release, it's going to be released in two different versions. A very traditional style Spice Road version using wooden components and traditional Euro style presentation, and a kind of slightly more thematic version. The Crystal Golem version, where you're dwarves collecting crystals. Same mechanisms, exact same game, just slightly different presentation. Now, I'm sure this has already sparked some debate about pasted-on themes and the like online. I've got a lot to say about that. I don't think this is at all a pasted-on theme. I don't think that's what that refers to at all. But that's a subject for a completely different video. I can't wait to have a look at both of these versions. I'm leaning towards the Crystal Golem. Crystal Golem sounds so good. I've got a few Spice Roadie games upstairs in my games room, but I don't have any Crystal Golem games, I don't think. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I really would like to see both versions. I can see myself being swayed towards Spice Road if it ends up looking really good. Well, we'll see. Last year at Essen, Celestia was released, re-implementation of Cloud 9. A really fantastic game. I love it. A little push your luck. It's light, it's silly, but it's a game that I really enjoyed. Something that's always felt a bit strange to me was the fact that when it's the captain's turn, they're on their own and you can't really help them. There's no wheeling and dealing. I always felt that was a little bit missing in Celestia. Well, there's a new expansion coming out called A Little Help that seems to allow you to do that. I'm hoping it won't, like, tilt the game off into an imbalanced territory. We'll see. We'll find out. But I'm really looking forward to it. I like negotiation. I like that kind of thing in a game. Celestia's ripe for it, and so I'm really hoping that it's going to work out well. It's a cheap expansion. I'm probably just going to pick it up, to be honest, without playing it, and find out what it's like when I get it home. Cottage Garden is another one of Uwe Rosenberg's big hitters this year. I think that although not everyone is really singing this game's praises, I think it might be a little bit of a sleeper hit. When Uwe Rosenberg a few years ago, 2014, released Patchwork, which had kind of a slow burn, but now is widely regarded as an excellent two-player game, where you're essentially buying little pieces of patchwork, kind of like Tetris-like shapes, from a communal supply and then putting them into your personal play area. It sounds really simple. It's kind of a hard sell, I think, based on the theme, and also because if you've not played it or heard about it, I think the basic description doesn't sound like it's very exciting, but in actual play, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, you're just constantly thinking about what you're going to do and how your move will impact the next player's move. Cottage Garden looks like it's an evolution of that design. It looks like there's a little bit more going on. In this case, you're not building a patchwork, but rather you're having a nice little garden, so you're buying little different flowers and garden pots. Again, it's the Tetris-shaped pieces that you're putting into your garden. I think you might have 2 boards instead of 1. I'm not sure about that. But this is honestly one of the games that I'm most excited to see at Essen. I'm probably just going to pick this up straight away. I love Patchwork. I find that really easy to play with a lot of people. So easy to teach. It's one of those old-fashioned Euro games, where before Euro games were like, nowadays people say Euro games, you kind of think of these big, heavy, sprawling games. But Euro games I also remember as being light, simple rules, a lot of depth, but from simple rules. And this really seems to be like one of those, and that older style of Eurogame, and I'm really excited about it. I like the theme too. I'm going to enjoy building a nice little cottage garden. I don't care if I win or lose. I'll have a nice, beautiful little cottage garden. Really looking forward to it. Probably not everyone's most hyped Uwe Rosenberg game this Essen, but probably mine. Chariot Race. Okay, this is a Matt Leacock design, which is one of the main reason that I'm interested in this. Apparently, he's been working on it for quite a long time, and it's taken him quite a while to get this right. It's a race game, as you'd expect, with a little bit of conflict. You're using dice to change lanes and to get around the track as quickly as possible. There is combat in it. You can throw javelins and things like that at each other. I'm not really big on race games generally, but I have played a few that I've really enjoyed. The fact that Matt Leacock's designed this, and I've enjoyed so many of his other games, and that he's worked on it for so long, makes me think there's a good chance of it being one of the ones that I like. Looking forward to trying it out. Chicken Wings is a game in which you use a wooden spoon contraption to fling plastic chickens. Chromosome is another microbiology-themed board game, which apparently I'm into. I didn't realize, but yeah, I definitely am, because this one's got me really excited as well. So in this game, you're an evil microbe in a lab, and there also happen to be another couple of evil microbe species in this same lab with you. Those are your opponents, and I think you're all trying to, get away, escape this lab somehow, evolve and escape this lab before it's destroyed. And you're doing that on your turn by using there's general actions that are available to everyone, and then unique actions that are only available to certain microbes. And you're evolving and getting new genes, and you're spawning new microbes, and all of this kind of really interesting stuff that's actually kind of got a really like dark underlayer to the whole thing. Really looking forward to this one, hoping it's good, and so we'll see. Not much to say about this one. Codenames Pictures is probably on the top, near the top of a lot of people's lists. The original Codenames was a very, very popular party game. I am one of those weird people that really wonders if it's a great party game, though it is a really fun, interesting game. I do really enjoy it. I'm wondering if Pictures might even be a better version. I've yet to play it or try it. I'm really looking forward to it, but what much more is there to say about this? It's one of the most popular games that's come out in the last few years. Colony is coming to us from Bezier Games, and it looks really interesting. I'm a big fan of resource management. I'm a big fan of using dice in interesting, innovative ways, and this game seems to really be going at both of those things full tilt. The dice are used as resources, but each face of the die represents a different resource. With some of those resources being quite stable and being able to last from turn to turn, whereas other resources need to be used immediately. Really interested in this. Really sounds like it's got some novelty to it. I love the idea of maintaining a colony, of building a colony and managing it. I love games like that, whether they're video games or board games, and this seems to really be doing some interesting new stuff with it, so I'm really looking forward to seeing this one. Okay, Captive is part of, there's a series of games, a number of games that are coming out at Essen this year. They're all basically the same system. And I don't know a lot about it, but it's supposed to be a combination of a comic book and a board game. It sounds like really it's a choose your own adventure style game, really, where you're following along with the visual panels, but you have an RPG-like character sheet that has all of your items and gold and stats and things like that as well. Now, I quite like that kind of thing. Anyway, this one also seems to be adding a little bit more player determination in the fact that the panels might have visual clues. There might be clues that you have to really work out yourself based on the actual comic book. Whether that turns out to be true or not, whether it's as good as I'm hoping it will be, remains to be seen. I can definitely see this one being a big disappointment, but I'm hoping that it will be good. Yeah, so Captive is one of the names. There's a couple of others as well. I won't be going over all of them, obviously. This one's getting stuck in here. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. Crisis is coming to us from Ludic Creations, and I think this looks fascinating. It's a medium to heavyweight Euro game where you are playing investors and speculators in a country that has gone through a huge economic downturn, a huge recession, and it's just received a bailout basically from the International Monetary Fund. Such a bizarre theme for a game. So this seems to have a bit of everything. You're investing in all sorts of different businesses, whether they're tourism or medicine or research or science or whatever. You're speculating on commodities, and you're doing all sorts of different stuff. But it's also got this almost semi-co-op nature where the government's requiring some like upturns that the investors, all of the players should really be doing. Otherwise, the state of the country is going to go into further decline. Really, really looks like interesting stuff. I have seen a little bit of the play of how the game plays from a Rado video. If you're interested, have a look at that. Really interested in this one. One of my favorite things in a game is being able to bluff or lie to someone. And I think quite often that bluffing and lying and treachery works best when it's simple. And Cup of Bluff, which I think is what the name of this game is going to be released at Essen under, looks to be just one of the simplest. So you've got 3 dice in a cup, which you shake up, roll, and have a look at and see what the value is. And then on the table, you've got all the possible values that 3 dice could roll to as chips. So then you can pick up one of those chips. So for instance, the 3, which is the minimum value 3 dice could be, is pretty unlikely. The 18 is similarly very unlikely, but the chips in the middle are most likely. So if you maybe take the 18 then someone has to either call you out on lying, in which case if they're correct, then they'll get a point, and if they're wrong, then you get a point. Really simple. I can see this being really, really, really fun. I could also see it falling flat on its face. We'll have to see. I love Cyclades. I mean, I really like it. It's one of my favorite games, actually. A really odd mixture of that kind of slightly Ameritrashy combat and confrontation, but actually rooted in a pretty solid Euro auction game, really. That's what Cyclades is, and I really, really like it. Despite the fact that I like it so much, I've never played with any of the expansions, and I think part of the reason for that is that from my knowledge of the expansions, I actually have always worried that they've actually seemed to remove that mixture that I like so much and move it more towards the Ameritrash realm, which I don't have a problem with. I love Ameritrash, but I've always really enjoyed Cyclades as it is. I really must play with the expansions at some point to get an idea of whether I like them or not. However, this year at Spiel, Cyclades Monuments is being released. It's a very small expansion, but it looks like it's going to add something that's not changing the game massively, right? You get these little monument miniatures which you can build, and then you get favors from the gods. That's it, basically special powers. Not a big deal, but for me, it's something I'm going to pick up definitely because I love Cyclades so much. It's not going to change the game massively. I can just throw it in there, and if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, it's cheap. So it's not a big deal. I'm genuinely really, really excited for this. I think the first expansion for Cyclades, which I'm definitely happy buying, and that I don't mind if it's not so good. Okay, Rock Paper Wizard is coming to us from WizKids Games, and I have no idea what to make of this. To be honest, I probably would have just brushed over it if it wasn't for the fact this has somehow got the Dungeons and Dragons license applied to it. I don't know what's going on here. Apparently there's a communal book of spells which everyone gets to see, and they all have like hand signals, hand gestures associated with them, which you have to cast at each other to manipulate each other on the board. And I've no idea what's going on here. I'm gonna have to find out, and I will let you know. Dixit Revelations, more Dixit cards. That's either got you excited or it doesn't. Personally, I think at this point I've got enough Dixit cards. I'm going to be looking at the art, seeing if I really, really like it, if it's worth picking up. But unless it's sensational, probably not. But I will be having a look at it. Dreams looks to be following in the footsteps of games like A Fake Artist Goes to New York. In fact, it's almost identical to it, where a number of players are all shown a picture except for one person, and no one knows who that person is. And you're taking these like star-like little crystals, and you're putting them out onto the night sky, a board that shows the night sky. And you're effectively trying to build up the picture that you've seen, except one person obviously doesn't know what the picture is supposed to be. That's it. That's the whole premise of the game. At the end of a certain allotted period of time, everyone tries to work out who they think is the ignorant player. I like this style of game. I wonder if it's going to work well in this format. I could see it. I could see myself enjoying it, but I'm a little bit hesitant, a little bit reluctant. I like A Fake Artist Goes to New York already. So what's this bringing to the table, apart from, I guess, a really nice board? Well, we'll have a see. Dungeon Rush. Okay, this one sounds bizarre, which is good. Okay, so this looks like it's themed basically on a standard dungeon crawl, going through and crushing monsters and fighting the big boss. You have two characters. One is your left hand, effectively, and one is your right hand. And you flip over two cards, and then you have to quickly slam your hands down on the creatures that you want your characters to fight. So I want my guy that's my left hand to fight this guy, my guy that's my right hand to fight this guy. And sometimes you can power them up. You can hit both hands onto a creature to fight that creature, and you gain loot and level up and so on and so forth. Sounds pretty interesting. We'll see. Empire's Galactic Rebellion is Glenn Drover's re-implementation of his Age of Discovery game. It's quite a large Euro-style game with a little bit of conflict in it. Very widely regarded, very well-reviewed. It's a game that has always passed me by, actually. It's something I've always really wanted to play but haven't quite gotten around to. Partly because I've never known anyone that's got it, and it's such a big investment, such a large, expensive game. This new version is just launching it into space. It's a re-implementation, so he's changed some of the elements, some of the mechanisms. Really interested in this now. If I ever do go and buy his Age of Discovery game, I'm going to have to decide if I go for that one or the space version. And having a look at it at Essen, I think is going to help me decide which way to go on that, and if it looks that good, I might even pick it up at Essen. We'll find out. Escape from Colditz is quite an old design, an old board game where most of the players are playing incarcerated soldiers trying to escape from Colditz, while the remaining player acts as a German officer trying to stop those escapes. I've played the board game a few times in my childhood. It was awful, really, really terrible. Had some great ideas for the time, but it just really doesn't stand up now. I'd be fascinated to see, I think the theme is really interesting. So I love asymmetric games. I love one versus all games. So I'd love to see a new updated design. I'll be looking out for this at Essen. But from what I'm seeing, actually, I don't think that it's really been revised a great deal. And in my opinion, for it to be brought up to modern standards, it would really need a pretty thorough redesign. But I'll be checking it out anyway. Fabled Fruit. Okay, so this is a game where you're animals trying to collect fruit in the forest. So, okay, the theme didn't really sell it to me, but here's two things that might sell it to you. One, Friedman Fries is the designer. Two, it's a legacy style game. Really? Yeah, apparently. So this is Friedman Fries's legacy game. So he's basically designed this system. I really have no idea how it works at all. But with each play, the game changes apparently to a point that it's quite considerably different. But you don't destroy anything. It's complete. You can completely reset the game if you wish, if that's something that annoys you. But it's legacy in the terms of the fact that as you play the game, it will change and evolve with you. And I still find this legacy concept of the game changing and evolving as you play fascinating. It's still new and exciting to me. The fact that this lacks destruction doesn't bother me at all. I don't need to destroy things for it to be exciting or interesting. I will probably just pick this up. I will probably just buy it because I'm that interested to see it. Yeah, Friedman Fries's legacy game. I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about this, but it's so interesting. So yeah, I'll be picking this one up definitely. Final Touch looks like it's quite a simple design from Mike Elliott, where a card is revealed to all players. It's a piece of art that needs 3 blue pigments, 2 pink pigments, a yellow pigment, what have you. And you're playing cards from your hand onto the painting, either to support that painting and to get it finished, and if you're one of the people that finishes it, you'll get some points, or to spoil the painting, putting too much paint in, or putting the wrong colors of paint in, and ruining the painting, possibly getting points that way. I don't know what to make of this one. I saw Barry Duel showcase it on one of his features. It looks interesting. This is the kind of stuff you go to Essen for, to have a look at it, to have a quick play of it, because I could see this working really well, being really in your face, really social game, but I could also see it being too simple, too light. Well, we'll find out. Fold it. Okay, I love this. So you've got this like cloth that's got all sorts of different ingredients on it, and you have to basically make a dish. A card will come out. You've got to make a dish by folding your cloth so that just the ingredients of that dish are shown on the cloth. So simple. Why hasn't someone designed this before? Is it fun though? I don't know. Again, we'll be finding out at Essen, won't we? I'm really looking forward to this though. I can see this being really good, really good. Could be terrible. Freak Shop is the kind of game that would be really easy to breeze over when you're looking at 700 to 800 games all at once, but don't. So the theme here is pretty loose. Apparently you have a mansion that you have haunted, but all of these haunted things that are haunting it, apparently you can trade it with a market. I have no idea. But these market trading games actually quite interest me. They're quite puzzly and quite mathy. I'm a big fan of Bizarre, which was an old Sid Saxon design, and this looks actually very similar. So you can only do 2 things on your turn. Both of them are a kind of trade. So one of them is you can take some of your spooks and things that you've got in your mansion, see how much they're worth, sell them to the market and buy things back at the exact same value. So you can sell something, a series of items that are worth 10 and buy a series of items that are worth 10. Or you can sell a series of items of, that are of the same value, so 4 4s for instance, and then you can bring back 4 10s for instance. That's it. That's the whole game, but a lot of complexity, a lot of depth, a lot of choice can come from that, such a simple design. I know because I've played similar games to this before. Definitely not everyone's cup of tea. I know some of you might already have switched off and be waiting for the next game, so let's get to it. FTF, or First to Find, is a geocaching board game. And to be honest, again, its theme is what's drawing me into this. The actual mechanisms don't sound that amazing, so I'm going to have to check it out. Essentially, you've got a 7x7 grid of tiles, and on your turn, you can reveal a tile or move into a tile. I'm hoping there's a little bit more to it than that, but we'll see. Gamschalpen is one of those team-style games where you have a partner and essentially you're trying to get a set of cards in your hand. Everyone is simultaneously replacing cards in their hand with cards that are on the table, and as soon as you have a set, you have to let your partner know secretly that you have a set so they can say, we've got the set, without letting anyone else know, because if anyone else sees that you're giving a signal to your partner, they can call you out on it and you're busted. I like this kind of game. I've played a few games that are like this, and I do really enjoy them. This apparently has some cards that spice it up with some special abilities and things like that. So we'll find out. I've always thought that Junta Viva El Presidente was a rather underrated game. And Gentleman's Deal seems to be trying to replicate a bit of that feel. So in this game, someone is kind of like the leader of this town, and they've got all of the money. During a negotiation round, they'll be negotiating with all of the players, trying to get them to agree by saying, you know, I'll give you $6 million, I'll give you $3 million, whatever, to try and get assent from the group. Because if everyone agrees, then everyone gets the money from the leader and everyone's happy. If the leader can't get people to agree, then they lose their leadership and it's going to go on to the next player. So you have to be really savvy as the leader. You need to be able to keep enough money back for yourself to make it worthwhile being leader, but you also need to keep everyone at the table appeased. I wonder how this will compare to Viva El Presidente. It's a game I really do enjoy. It's got its flaws, but it's a really great negotiation game. I'm hoping I'll get a similar feel from this one, and yeah, we'll find out. Glory, a Game of Nights, probably isn't the game that you think it is. This is a low-luck Euro that's using mechanisms like action rondelles to emulate the life of a young, wealthy knight out trying to gain prestige and glory. The kind of stuff that you're doing in this game sounds really fun and interesting from a Euro perspective. Things like training and praying and going on dates to eventually be jousting with players and NPCs. I'm really hoping that this is what I'm hoping that it's going to be, which is a really well-developed Euro that's going to really bring the theme through, make you feel like you're a knight, you know, living this life. I'm really hoping that that's going to be the case, but there's only one way to find out. Gooseberry is going to be available at the Spiel, and despite having a very limited release, I'm actually quite interested in this. I like this kind of game. On the table, there'll be like 12 subjects, kind of fairly closely related, I think, and everyone's going to get a code card that shows them which of these specific subjects that we're actually dealing with, except someone who's the gooseberry who doesn't know. And then we're going to go round and round the table, and everyone's going to say a single word clue that obviously lets everyone know that they know what the subject is, but doesn't give enough information to the gooseberry that it reveals it to them. Simple, elegant, nice. If it works, and I'll find out in October. Goths Save the Queen might have a really stupid name, but it has a really interesting premise. One thing that we're really lacking in board games at the moment are good team games, and Goths Save the Queen is a 2 versus 2 game, really. So one player is essentially a war master or some such, giving orders to the second player who's actually going to carry those out. But obviously it's difficult to communicate in those situations, so the war master basically is giving a single card to the player that's controlling the forces, and that single card has 2 orders on it, and the player that's controlling the forces doesn't really know which of those orders the war master intends. So I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds like it's got a kind of similar vibe to the Overlord campaigns in Memoir 44, which I've really enjoyed. I'm really hoping it's good, and we'll find out at Essen. Grand Bazaar is almost certainly exactly the kind of game that you think it is, which means some of you are probably already waiting for me to talk about something else. It's a trading game that involves a stock market where sometimes the items that you have are going to go down in price, and sometimes they're going to go up in price. You're going to be trying to essentially buy low and sell high. You'll be deciding if you want to have a diverse portfolio or throw all of your money into a single commodity. When these games work well, I really enjoy them. I tend to like these types of games on the slightly lighter side. This one looks like it's kind of family weight. I think it could be really good, and I'm definitely going to be checking it out. Great Western Trail is an Alexander Pfister design. It's coming to us from Pegasus Spiel, and it looks to be a fairly heavyweight Euro about America in the 19th century, moving those great herds of cattle across the country. It looks like it's got elements of hand management and deck building in there. You're recruiting people to help build buildings and maintain your herd, and all sorts of really good, interesting stuff. The theme's quite interesting. The mechanisms look fascinating. It might be a bit too heavy for some, but I'm really looking forward to it. Guilds is on my list based on the premise. I love games that let you build something. They're the kind of games, whether you win or lose, that you can be really happy and have a really great experience from, because you can look and see how you've expanded and built something over the course of the game. And in Guilds, you start off as a fledgling guild in a fledgling city, this brand new city, with nothing but a tent. And you're trying to scrape together enough silver to essentially attract people into your guild to make them think that your guild's worth joining. But slowly, using their abilities and your know-how and money, slowly build out your guild, build a great big guild house with lots of sumptuous rooms so you can attract better people into the guild. If this game is tight, if it works well, then I bet I'll love it, because I love this kind of thing. So yeah, here's hoping. A few years ago, I played Guns and Steel, a game that I quite enjoyed. It was kind of Seven Wonders Duel-like. Very simple. Each round you would take one of your cards and choose one of them to use as a resource. Then you would use one as a development, actually have that technology. And then you could buy something from this pyramid-like supply structure in the middle. Nice game, very simple, very elegant. I really did enjoy it quite a bit. But what really held it back for me was it looked so ugly. It looked really, really dull. Guns and Steel Renaissance is coming out at Spiel this year, and it's something I'm definitely going to be looking at, because it seems to be essentially the same game. It's a standalone expansion, so all the cards are different, but much nicer artwork, and really that artwork is really important to me. I really enjoy looking at the art in games, and so this could be the thing that makes me actually finally add Guns and Steel to my collection. Well, that's it for this video, gang. That was a lot of games, but there are many more to come. I hope that there were some there that you think are interesting, that you might have breezed over if you were looking at Essen previews yourself, and hopefully you'll now go and have a look at some of those in more detail. I will be posting more, obviously, and I'll be doing so as soon as I possibly can. If you'd like to be notified when I produce the next video, then consider subscribing to the channel. And if you found this video useful at all and you'd like to help me produce more content that's like this, then you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. So as I said, I'll be putting up the next video as soon as I possibly can, so keep an eye out for it, and I'll see you then.